Story 1. Once talked with a homeless man who mentioned he would often empty and clean out a dog food can and refill it with beef stew. He ate it outside the grocery store while he was asking for money or food and would get help. Story 2. Got this one from a friend who is a judge. If you get called for jury duty and want to get out of it, the foolproof way for both sides to throw you out is to say you have a strong respect for law enforcement, and if they have brought a charge against someone, they must have done something wrong. Even if there is no evidence, you believe they do not arrest innocent people. You will be home before lunch. Story 3. Tell your coworkers you have terrible hearing, which is personally partially true, but it's not nearly as bad as I play it up to be, and everyone feels comfortable whispering around you. I know everything. Story 4. I had a conference at a hotel. During a break, I went out into the hall and served myself a full breakfast. Turns out the meal was for a completely different conference, and our conference only had coffee and muffins. It was accidental, and I never did it again, but it would be very easy to do if you needed a meal. Story 5. Hotels often have fees if you cancel too close to your intended stay. In a lot of cases, you can, however, call them, reschedule into the future, then wait a bit and call again to cancel, but this time without the fees. Story 6. For any type of web-delivered service where your physical location doesn't matter, such as digital downloads, event tickets, and online credits, choose a zip code in a place with no sales tax. For this purpose, I've memorized 59901, which is Kalispell, Montana. Story 7. Not sure if this is unethical at all since they allow it to happen. Get the application for fast food places that have reward points. Anytime you go there or just walk by, look for receipts on the ground. Scan the receipts for reward points. Free food. I have already received over $1,600 worth of free food from one application. When Menards does their 11% off, look for rebate receipts in the parking lot. Last year, I got several $100s in rebates that way. Story 8. In our ever-accepting world, I have made many phone calls for utilities and subscriptions in my wife's name, as she didn't want to make the call. They always insist on speaking to the account owner, and there's generally an awkward pause when I say I am the account owner named wife's feminine name with a clearly masculine voice. I can't say a thing nowadays, rightly so. I've always found it ridiculous anyway, as it could be anyone. Story 9. While stealing credit card information and making fraudulent purchases is illegal, nothing is really done about it in my experience. I recently had over $1,300 of fraudulent purchases on my credit card. They were made in a state I've never been to. I contacted my credit card company and disputed the charges, then canceled the account so the person couldn't make any more purchases. I asked if they were going to try and catch the person, and they said they don't pursue justice and that they factor fraud into their losses. I had all the transactions listed in my online account, as well as digital receipts for 2 of the transactions because they used my store rewards card. The 2 receipts showed the date and time, as well as showing they went through the self-checkout. As far as I know, the majority of self-checkouts have cameras. I filed a police report. 90% of my reasoning was I didn't want this to happen to anyone else, and they said that technically the credit card company was the victim here, since they would more than likely refund the purchases. They said that they can file my report, but since the credit card company doesn't pursue justice, they're more than likely not going to do anything with the information I provide. I was raised to not lie, cheat, or steal. I am honest to a fault, but it made me want to start stealing credit card information. Story 10. I had a car with a strange electrical problem. The wipers would turn on randomly, and then the car would die in a few minutes. One night, I hit and killed a deer. It just came out of nowhere. I reported it to the police and showed the damage to my car. They arranged to have the deer hauled off. The next day, I talked to my insurance company about the accident and told them about the strange electrical problem, probably caused by hitting the deer. They covered the cost of fixing it, including towing to a mechanic. It was towed 3 times before they fixed it. I was a poor, starving college student. I guess that's my rationale. Story 11. I got tired of Amazon delivering stuff to the wrong apartment building, which is right next door, but we are both gated. I can't just go get it. Usually, this person will bring it to me within a week or 2. I don't want to wait a week or 2. I've complained to Amazon and told them to look at their notes and see how many times I've called about this and not wait 3 more days to reorder. So now they send me the item immediately, and then my neighbor brings the original item to me. So I get 2 of some things because of their mistake. Not sorry either. Story 12. I got summoned for jury duty when my kids were in elementary school. I called them and asked if I needed to bring activities for my kids or if they had a daycare. I was released. Story 13. In my area, the building codes are super strict, and a lot of the time you won't get permission to tear down a house completely to build a new house. However, if you don't demolish the entire house and instead remodel the house, then you'll get permission. So what we have done in the past is literally demolish everything except for the fireplace and chimney and literally build a brand new house around it. Personally, I think that it goes against the spirit of the law, but whatever, I'm not in charge of the company. Story 14. My last company started tracking time, so I put my Bluetooth mouse on a Roomba, as USB ports were blocked, thus no jigglers or software. It was such a terrible place to work. Not that it matters, but I worked mainly mornings and nights because my colleagues were international. I would sleep odd hours and still have to show up for the 3 days per week return to office policy. The company started tracking time, but only during 9 to 5 initially, checking that we worked at least 40 hours, which I definitely was, but they couldn't track it correctly. Later, they expanded to track across 24 hours properly, but then started tracking applications too. We were a reporting team, so we would have an insane 1 to 2 weeks at the end of the month, and then the rest of the time was quieter. My manager had a grumpy meeting about how my app data was showing that I wasn't using enough applications during the quiet weeks, which also didn't account for in-person meetings away from the laptop. So I wrote a macro to copy data back and forth in Excel and, with help from another unethical life hacker, wrote code that copied our code libraries back and forth. Sometimes I forgot to turn this off and even won a few awards for most productivity. Some months. This amounted to about $500 in gift cards. Story 15. Work as little as possible for the maximum amount of money. Avoid letting your boss know when you've completed tasks ahead of time, as finishing quickly often leads to being assigned even more work. Focus on keeping your boss satisfied without overextending yourself. Story 16. Lower your car insurance collision or comprehensive deductibles to 0 right before a snowstorm or a road trip. After the weather or trip, raise the deductible back up. You will only spend a few dollars for the few days you had the lower deductible, and in the event of an at-fault accident, you pay nothing out of pocket. Story 17. If you work from home, invest in a mouse jiggler. No one cares in the office when you go for a 10-minute stroll for a coffee, but heaven forbid my icon goes orange. Story 18. I have used those fake email address generators to sign up for a free temporary subscription a time or two. Of course, since a lot of these now require credit cards to get the free trial, this doesn't work that well. Story 19. If you have a document due to your boss, coworker, or client, and you are not done by the due date but could get it done if you had 1 more day, find a DLL file on your computer, rename it to something like budget.xls or proposal.doc or presentation.ppt, and email it with a message that says, "Here it is." When the recipient gets it, they won't be able to open it and will email you back, thereby buying you time to finish. When done, send them the correct one and say, "Not sure what happened. Here it is again. Try this one." Story 20. If your mortgage is managed by Wells Fargo and you call in for customer service, mention lawyer, media, or government, or some variation. These are trigger words and will get you escalated to the highest level of service. There are 5 levels of customer service. If you call in and the first thing you say is, "I want to speak to a manager," you'll get the 3rd tier. But if you say, "Hey, I see this charge on my bill. I'm not sure about it. I feel like I should talk to my lawyer about it. I might call the local TV station," or "I think I'm going to tell my state senator about it," you'll get escalated to a 6th level tier, internally called the President's Office. At that level, they are trained to thoroughly research your issue in a completely diligent fashion and provide you with a lawyer-proof explanation. You might not like the answer, but you can be certain they've done their due diligence. Basically, their internal models have predicted that people who mention these things are likely to bring additional scrutiny to Wells Fargo's practices, and being exceptionally nice and thorough tries to solve it before it creates pressure from outside entities. Story 21. I have 4 different Audible accounts. Initially, I signed up for each account to get the free book, but now I constantly rotate activating and deactivating accounts for a first 3 months. 1 credit per book per month. For 99 cents per month promotion. As soon as I get my 3rd credit, I deactivate and reactivate a different account with the same promotion. Sometimes they have deals where you can get 2 books for a credit too. Also, after every 3 to 4 books, I return a book even if I read it fully to get a free credit since they let you do that. Story 22. Work makes us go for training twice a year. My teammates and I would search for courses that happen in hotels and text the organizer to see whether lunch is provided. If it was, is the lunch catered in or will we be allowed to eat at the hotel buffet? Nothing beats getting full on lobster and oysters. Story 23. I bring my own lunch to work about 99% of the time because I'd rather save my money than overspend on one lunch meal. On the rare occasion that I do eat out for lunch, I will scour the internet for local 2-for-1 deals or something that's buy one get one free, half off, etc. Once I find one, let's say it's to Chick-fil-A, I'll announce to everyone that I'm going to Chick-fil-A and ask if anyone wants me to grab them anything. Inevitably, there will be at least one person that says, "Can you grab me a meal?" They give me some money, I order their meal, get mine for free or at a discount, go back to work and give them their change. I guess it's a little devious that I don't tell them how I'm benefiting from it, but technically they are getting free delivery of a meal they already wanted. Also, they got exactly what they paid for. Story 24. I'm not sure how unethical it is, but it works great and I've never been questioned. I travel 80% for work with about a 60 to 40 flight to drive ratio. About once a month, I need to host a Zoom call while on a road trip. I pull into a Marriott brand property. Any will do. Grab my work backpack and smile to the desk clerk as I walk in the door. I head straight to the lobby, plug in, turn on, and host my meeting. I am self-sufficient with a hotspot, so no need for a Wi-Fi code. Once I'm done, quick bathroom run, and I'm back on the road. Story 25. Buy the cheapest tickets you can to a sporting event and then walk to whatever seats are open. Go another level and use the ticketing application to find better seats once inside. Story 26. Sometimes I might need 4 specific bolts, but on Amazon you need to buy a box of 100. I will buy the box, take out 4, and return the box for only having 96. Story 27. My old man was a copier machine technician for big office buildings and lawyers' offices. Years back, they started trying to track the technician's location and hours by having them scan the barcodes on the copier machine at each location with this handheld device. He used each one of those copy machines to make a book with every barcode in it so he could get his work done fast, scan the book later, and keep his hours laughing out loud. Story 28. You can beat any speeding ticket in California very easily. Just plead not guilty by written declaration, and then bury the officer in paperwork and drag out the deadlines as long as possible. Sooner or later, the officer will have better things to do, and he will miss a deadline to submit something. Then your case will get automatically dismissed. I have a friend who has gotten over 20 tickets over the years and has never paid even one of them because of this tactic. I assume this would work in any state where they allow you to fight your ticket by mail. Story 29. Wear a skirt and translucent tights to write exams. You can write cheat notes on your legs, cross your legs, and subtly pull the tights a bit when you need to see your notes. Most teachers and proctors will not be comfortable asking to examine your leg closer or ask you to take your tights off to check. And if they do, you can say they're creepy and threaten to complain about their conduct. Story 30. Don't know if this is the case elsewhere, but in France, we weigh fruit and vegetables on scales that print a sticker you put on the paper bag. I put my vegetables on the scale, then lift the bag a bit to shave off weight and pay less. Cashiers never check. Story 31. Get rid of smiling solicitations by stuffing heavy items in their business reply letter. They have agreed to pay the postage, so if it gets delivered, postage due. Story 32. In Aldi, to stop the cashier from pitching items at you like a Major League Baseball pitcher, strategically pick off some bits of barcodes at intervals along the conveyor to create pause moments. Story 33. Flying to a different country for some medical procedures is cheaper than getting them done in the United States, even if you include a round-trip flight and a 2-week holiday. Story 34. Big queue to go left at the two-lane roundabout. Drive up the right lane, indicate right, and go all the way around to the left exit. The loop-to-loop is not illegal. Many will hate you. Story 35. I've never done this, but I know someone who claims they did. This is highly unethical. If you have a car that is worth more on paper than it is in real life, like a German car with scratches or engine trouble, drive it someplace remote in your city or in a parking garage. Report it stolen. If the car is not found in a fairly short period of time, 2 weeks to 30 days, the insurance company will pay out. If you have rental coverage, you won't lose access to a car. They typically do recover the vehicle eventually, but once a check is sent to you, the claim is closed and the insurance company will sell it. If it is recovered quickly, you can then say it was damaged and possibly get it totaled. Note: I think this is a felony, so I'm not advocating doing it. It's definitely fraud.